Welcome to One Tired Teacher, episode 139, How to Rock the First Week of School, Tips for Back to School. So today we're going to be talking about some things that we can do to really be ready for back to school and be excited and motivated and, oh my goodness, not completely fall apart because we are exhausted. There's nothing like the beginning of the year tired, or even the end of the year tired. Those are like the two craziest times. And I don't know if you can escape that no matter what your position is. I have a friend who's a new media specialist, and she's doing inventory, and it's like, or not inventory, but like getting textbooks out, and it's crazy. And I'm like, it's a really crazy time for media specialists. And I'm like, it's not only for media specialists, it's for every grade level. So there's no escaping it. It's just an insane amount of time. So many things that need to be done. How are you ever going to be able to rock it? We're going to talk about that today. Hope you stick around.
Welcome to One Tired Teacher. And even though she may need a nap, this teacher is ready to wake up and speak her truth about the trials and treasures of teaching. Here she is, wide awake. Wait, she's not asleep right now, is she? She is awake, right? Okay. From Trina Debery Teaching and Learning, your host, Trina Debery.
Hey, so, okay, we are in that time frame. It is back to school time, whether you are going back in August or you are going back in September. It is around the corner. I know in my district, teachers started back Tuesday, and so they're already in the full swing, and students will be back next week. So it's crazy. So I know, and I did see a post on Instagram, and someone was like on day 10 with the kids, which I was like, whoa, there are people that have started that early. That's crazy. All right. So what are we going to do? How are we going to rock this school year? Because we know it's crazy. It's been crazy for the past year and a half, maybe longer. And now we are thinking about, like, what are we going to do now that most of us are back in person? And we've got, numbers rising. We've got a new variant. We've got all this stuff going on. And we were like, what are we going to do? We're going to do what teachers always do, and we're going to persevere. And this episode is about rocking the back to school time because, like I said, it can be tough, and it's tough for everyone. It's not only really hard for first and second grade teachers, it's also hard for media specialists and people that are involved with getting things distributed and ready for teachers. That's a lot of pressure. You've got teachers that need things and want things, and you want to serve. But when you are overwhelmed yourself, it's hard. It's just so hard. So I think we have to remember in that moment that everyone that we work with is in a tough situation because it's just really exhausting. And if they're not, okay, we're going to let them not be, and we're going to be happy for them instead of feeling like, why don't you have to do this too? Because that's a scarcity mentality, and all that does is just make us feel bad. It just makes us feel bad. It makes others feel bad. So we're going to be in abundance, even though we are in a scarcity. We're going to be in abundance in our thinking, and we're going to be like, okay, good for them if they don't have as much stress and pressure as I do. And what can I do to help myself? All right, so that's what we're going to talk about. So let's talk about that. When I first started teaching in 1997, I really couldn't wait to go back to school year after year. I lived for teaching. I loved setting up my classroom and starting fresh each year. It really brought me this immense joy. And I keep hoping that people are still feeling that way. But sadly, I didn't actually continue to feel that way. I had a really hard time, and I let a really lousy system kind of get me down and break me in that way. And I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want that to happen to anyone, because you are champions. You are heroes. You're survivors. And most of you deserve to feel an intense happiness, and that because you offer that to others. So you deserve it for yourself, and you can take it for yourself too. I want you this year to set some boundaries for yourself. I don't want you to live at school. I want you to leave when you need to leave. Set that time and then honor it for yourself. The problem is sometimes when we tell ourselves, I'm going to do this, and then we don't, it's like we're lying to ourselves, which is really harsh. Like we already have enough of that going on around us. We don't want to lie to ourselves. And the thing to remember is that our students deserve our best from us. They deserve our love and attention. But they deserve for us to take care of ourselves as an example, as a model to them. And we can't give our best when we've completely depleted ourselves. So keep those things in mind. All right. So again, this year might be a little bit different because of, some safety practices or things like that you have to have in place. But I want to start off rocking the school year with some motivation. I want to share some motivational quotes that I have found that I sometimes feel like I need to hear over and over again because it kind of kickstarts my back to school mindset. And our mindset is really the key. And that's the thing that we need to remember. So here are a few things that I hope help you. Don't be afraid to start over. It's a new chance to rebuild what you want. I love that one. So don't be afraid to start over. You can sometimes you're just going to pick yourself up and you're going to start again. That's the thing I loved about back to school is I got to have a refresh. It was a new year, a new beginning, and it is for you too. All right, here's one by Joan of Arc. I'm not afraid. I was born to do this. That is such a teacher. That is such a quote for a teacher. I'm not afraid. I was born to do this. Even if we are afraid, we do it anyway because we do it with perseverance and bravery. All right, here's one by Dr. Seuss. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. There you go. You're climbing that mountain and you're going to succeed. You're going to be at the top, looking down, smiling upon all the impact that you are having. You are going to get there. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. This is another one. This is one by Taylor Swift. This is a new year, a new beginning, and things will change. We're always going to face change. Change is always going to happen. We might not face it at the rate that I feel like we have in the last year and a half, but we are going to face change. We have to be ready for that. We have to be able to adapt. So keep that in mind. And then here's another one that I think is really important by Eleanor Roosevelt. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. I think that's so good. Okay. So, and then I have a few TED Talks I want to share with you that I think you should see before you go back to school because they are so unbelievably motivational and they will get you in an inspired mindset. The first one is called Every Kid Needs a Champion by Rita Pierson. Now, Rita Pierson is a teacher. She was a teacher for 40 years. And she says, she was once heard saying to a colleague, they don't pay me to like the kids. And actually someone said that to her. And her response was, kids don't learn from people they don't like. This is a rousing call to educators to believe in their students and actually connect with them on a real human personal level. So that is a must-watch TED Talk. I love that one. So good. I cry every time. Another one of my favorites is a speaker, and he's a speaker in education. He's actually passed away. His name is Sir Ken Robinson. He is my education hero. I had the distinct honor and pleasure of hearing him speak at the 2018 Technology Conference in Orlando, Florida. And I got to meet him in person and I was shaking. It was such an amazing experience. I love him. So he has one of the most viewed TED Talks ever, which I think is absolutely brilliant. And it's called, actually don't know which one is the most talked about, but I'm going to share 3 of them. One of them is called Do Schools Kill Creativity? And this is where Sir Ken Robinson makes an entertaining and profoundly moving case for creating an education system that nurtures rather than undermines creativity. I love this one. He's actually like a catalyst to why I fell so in love with Makerspace. He set the stage. He planted the seeds for me. And his whole conversation about how important it is to embrace creativity was just the very beginning. I didn't even know about Makerspace yet. It was just the very beginning of that kind of thinking for me. So I love that one. Here's another one. How to Escape Education's Death Valley. So Sir Ken Robinson outlines 3 principles crucial for the human mind to flourish and how current education culture works against them. In a funny, stirring talk, he tells us how to get out of the educational death valley we now face and how to nurture our youngest generations with a climate of possibilities. So good. And then another one is reimagine learning that can change the world. And this is an internationally recognized educator and creativity expert. Robinson inspires us to imagine school systems that can move beyond a narrow focus on academic achievement to actively promote creativity and divergent thinking. So good. So good. So I have a task for you. I want you to find at least 2 motivating quotes, and you can take them from the collection above, but I want you to start like a motivation folder on your desktop, on your computer. And I want you to collect them so that when you are feeling like it's hard, I don't know if I can keep going, I'm frustrated, when you're feeling like that, you can open up your motivational folder and you can find some motivational quotes from people who inspire you. So get that together so that can be a beginning of something that you do. It's really helpful when you're feeling pretty crappy. So hopefully that helps. That will help you really rock the school year and be excited about what is to come, because there's going to be a lot. Like we know, every single year there's going to be a lot. All right, so let's move on. So that was the first little part that I wanted to do. That's how we can kind of rock the year, is to really inspire ourselves and motivate ourselves. Another thing that we can do is to rock the year is to pay attention to procedures. Oh my goodness, that is so important. Procedures and routines are such a vital part of a well-run classroom. And without them, everything falls apart. For real, everything. You have to have procedures or you're going to go crazy. Every time I have ever disliked a time in my school day, it has always come down to what procedure I had in place during that time or what I didn't have in place. Systems really are that crucial. Classroom routines train students to carry out procedures with a minimum of wasted time. Less wasted time allows for more time to teach and learn. Taking the time to set up procedures and routines in your classroom is the most important thing you can do in the school year. Whether this is your first year or your 20th year or your 30th year, you are going to want to have these in place, and you are going to want to make sure that you practice procedures, because it's going to save you a ton of instructional time. It's going to decrease your disruptive behaviors, and it's going to allow you to create an environment that is ideal for learning. This will be essential in a physical classroom. You are going to need these and to set these routines and expectations for both learning environments. It really is that important. In fact, the times that I have tried to rush through procedures and routines, I have messed it up and my classroom was not running the way I wanted to, and I had to stop and go back. And that's the problem. I love Tools for Teaching by Fred Jones. Such a great book. I'll link to it in the show notes. One of the things he says is the rules in any classroom are defined by reality. Whatever any student can get away with. Isn't that crazy? Like, whatever they can get away with is what is really defining your rules, no matter what rules you have in place. I think the quote I think the quote that I just said is really, it just really struck home for me. I have seen seasoned teachers, and I have been guilty myself of thinking I had put these rules and procedures and even expectations in place only to allow something different to occur. What we allow to happen becomes the rule. That's a really profound statement, don't you think? The reality is students know that words are just words, and it is our actions that matter. The example that I often see and have actually done myself is when you ask the class to pay attention to what you're saying, and then you allow students to talk over you, interrupt you, or fiddle around in their desk, and you're showing them that it's okay not to pay attention. That drives me crazy. I have to stop talking. I am like, I don't want to be rude to you. If you're talking, I don't want to talk while you're talking. I mean, you don't have to be mean about it. You don't want to call them out and embarrass them. It's not a thing about shame. We're talking about general respect for one another. If someone else is talking, I don't want to talk over them. They're not listening when they're talking over you or when they're interrupting. So that is such an important thing. And if we allow them to continue doing that and we just keep talking, they're not getting it. And we're also telling them it's okay. Another thing that Fred Jones says is classroom rules are ultimately defined by whatever any student can get away with. So the students just watch. Wow. That means that everything we do, even in the first hour, makes all the difference. This is where being proactive and having a plan becomes the most important part of your day, because we don't have a plan to prevent disruptive behavior. We have to live with it. If we don't have a plan to prevent it, we have to live with that behavior. And that's really frustrating. Another great systems organization, back to school, first days of school person is Harry Wong, who wrote The First Days of School. And he says, what do you do on the first day of school will determine your success or failure for the rest of the school year. You will either win or lose your class on the first days of school. Isn't that so crazy? I feel like it's so true too. Teaching for so long, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so true. The goal, and this is another thing that Fred Jones says, the goal is to focus on procedure. What sets proactive people apart is not their goals and objectives, but rather their procedures. Proactive people know how to organize an activity in order to get things done. Reactive people either do not know how to organize an activity or are too lazy to go to the trouble. Consequently, they must react to the disaster that has been created by a lack of structure. Whew, that is some tough love, Fred Jones, but you're right. It's so true. If we are not proactive in thinking through what can happen, what will happen, what might happen, we are going to have to respond reactively, which when we're responding reactively, we're kind of out of control. So we got to keep that in mind. And I quoted Fred Jones and Harry Wong for two reasons, or not for two reasons, for a reason. I really feel like they know what they're talking about. These two are masters at setting a classroom tone and for learning and effective classroom management. With a tone for learning and effective management, your role is 100 times easier. You actually get to teach. Without environment and control, you are in for a very rough year. If you are new to teaching, or even if you have found yourself exhausted after even first few days of school, then I highly recommend Tools for Teaching by Fred Jones and How to Be an Effective Teacher, The First Days of School by Harry Wong and Rosemary Wong. And I'm going to link to those in the show notes because they are a must-have. I don't care how long you've been teaching. They're so helpful. So, all right, let's get to it. So this is where we're going to start with a plan. This is the first step. So I'm going to give you some steps about these procedures, and then I'm going to tell you how you might want to do that. And this is how you're going to rock this school year, because procedures are this important. So this is where we start. You want a plan. The first thing you need to do before the students come in is to stand at the front of your room and really look around. I want you to spend a lot of time prepping your room, making sure you have enough space. If you have crowding issues, resolve them. Obviously, that's important when we're trying to keep a little bit separated, or if we have to do that, that's important. Keep in mind when you are setting up your room, where is your furniture? Can you get around quickly? Do you offer an alternative seating option for specific students? And I'm not talking about allowing kids to sit anywhere. I'm talking about, is there a place for kids to go when they are struggling with what's going on, no matter what the situation is? They may be, maybe having something hard at home. It might be difficult for them because that's not the way they learn, all kinds of things. And in that case, a cool down corner or something like that can be really helpful. A place that kids can kind of escape where what you're doing and get a moment to catch themselves before they completely go off the chain. And you might even have a timer in in the area. You want to allow choices. I do have a cool down corner kit in my shop on TPT, and I'll link to it in the show notes, that I think is really helpful to get kids thinking through how they feel and what they're going to do to resolve that, and then how to know to come back in to what's going on, and not to do it on all the time every 5 seconds, but as a way for them to learn how to self-regulate. Also, I want you to remember that proximity, like that's the distance between you and your students. Especially your harder to handle students, this is key. Proximity is key. Sometimes all you need to do is literally go stand next to someone and they will stop the behavior. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to draw attention to it. You just casually walk over, stand there or closer. And then you've got the kid going back doing what they need to do. All right, so start with how you're going to plan to set up your classroom. And I want you to think about 2 major issues that I want you to keep in mind. And that is, number 1, you want to be able to see all of your students all the time. So if you have nooks or like private spots in your classroom, you want to make sure that you have some kind of procedure in place for those areas, because they can get tricky. And this takes a lot of practice and trust with your students. So if you feel leery of that, then open things up. Things can happen in a blink of an eye, especially with older kids. Well, I think that can happen with any age kid, so I take that back. And the second thing to keep in mind is you want to be able to get anywhere in the room with lightning speed. So have open pathways to every area. That is key. So teachers who have fewer behavior issues move. They are right there next to the ones who need a visual and physical reminder. You have to be able to work the crowd. If you don't have room to move, you might want to rethink this setup. Okay, so Fred Jones also says the optimal room arrangement allows you to get from any student to any other student in the fewest steps. Now you are ready for students to enter your class. All of this is a procedure to be taught, so it becomes a routine. The thing you want to remember the most is that you have to teach it, you have to practice it, you have to expect it. If it doesn't go as you want, you've got to stop and do it again. Even if it means you have to do it 100 times. You want it to run the way you want it to run. You don't allow for it to run any differently. You keep practicing and you change it if you need to. If you don't, you're going to pay for this for the rest of the year. And when I say you have to teach it, I don't mean you have to just say it. I mean you have to show them what it looks like. You have to show them what it doesn't look like as well. Like a non-example. Make it really exaggerated and really bad. This makes it a little more fun to teach, and they will remember it. Then you let them practice it. Maybe you allow a few kids who really think they can do it to model it for the class. You make a huge deal out of them doing it right. And if they don't, you show them again and you practice again. Then you practice with the entire class. Keep practicing until it is seamless. Then review it once more before you move on to the next procedure. You want your systems to become a routine, so it's really important. I used to have so much fun doing the non-example of like somebody that wanted to get my attention. Instead of raising their hand or giving me some kind of signal, I had them like flopping all over their desk and huffing and puffing and yelling things out. And it was always so fun to give the non-example and then to give the like really good example. So just keep that in mind. Some procedures and routines that you might want to have prepared for day 1 is coming into class. This is your first impression every day. How do you want your kids to come in? Where do they go, or where are they before they come into their room? Are they waiting in the hall? Do they wander in one at a time? These are things that you're going to want to think through. We all know that there's lots of socialization going on outside the classroom, but you are going to want your classroom to be a place to learn, obviously to be collaborative and creative as well, but you want to set the tone for your classroom. And it really should be a warm, loving environment, but it also needs to reflect that you are ready to get down to business. Most of the greats say that they greet that you should greet your kids at the door. And I think this is so important because you are really setting the tone for the day. And I think it's important to be able to say hello to each child. And you don't have to start a long conversation about what they did the night before, but you want to have that little special time. I had a friend who used to do different greetings with their students. I thought she learned all 22 greetings. So I thought that was so cool. I have a terrible memory. I can't even imagine. But I think that I think different greetings are really fun. You could also do like a sign with different greetings and let them choose, and they just pick one that when they're coming in. So, but you, again, don't have like a super long conversation, because that will lead to the people that are inside getting off task quickly, and the people that are waiting are getting frustrated, and you don't want that. I have made that mistake. On the first day, you're going to want them all to maybe even be lined up by your door, tell them to go straight to their desk. You want to have something available for them right away, so that and something that's not difficult, something they aren't going to have a lot of questions with, but something that requires really very little help from you. It might even be to draw something that they did over the summer. You want a task to show them that every day you're going to have like an expectation. I really love soft starts, and it's something that I didn't do in my classroom and didn't learn about until after I had left the actual classroom. I was doing other things in the school, but not teaching the second grade anymore. And I think that's an idea. I don't know if I would do that on week 1, because I really want them to get down the procedures. But if I want that to be part of my classroom, then I probably would need to start it on week 1, because I really want them to understand what that means to make a choice. I'm not going to talk about that. I've talked about that before on another episode, and I'll link to that in the show notes. But I want to just continue on some other things that I want you to keep in mind when you are practicing procedures, because this is how you're going to rock this school year, and then we're going to wrap it up. So if you are thinking about, if you're thinking about a soft start and you're thinking about avoiding these behavior issues, it is episode 48, just so you know. Another thing to consider is, where do you want backpacks to go? Do you have cubbies? Are you going to have them on the back of the chairs, or their hooks? What do you want for them to have on their desk? Planners, take-home folders, homework, notes. What does that look like? Where do you want them to turn things in for you? Do you have a turn-in basket? Do you want them left on their desk? Do you want this to be a silent time? I always had like a silent time in the very beginning of the morning. Like I had a timer on, and so it was really quiet, because I got stressed out with that initial buzzing. I needed it to be quiet so I could think and do all the housekeeping work, but that's up to you and how you want your classroom. Do you want them to be able to go to the bathroom during this time, sharpen a pencil, get water? Will you provide bell work? Do you want them to have what's the system for that? Is it a folder? Do you have it run off in advance? How does that work? Do you want to have a time limit on this? Do you want to set a timer? What do you want them to allow them to do when they're finished? So have a procedure for that. Are they going to read? Do they get to move away from their seat? Are they shopping for books? Think about those kind of things. After carefully thinking through all the considerations that I just said, and any other that you can think of, I want you to follow a step-by-step procedure. Here's a tip. If something occurs that you do not anticipate, add a step in and teach it to them again. You can always make adjustments. So these are the steps that I think that work really well. And the first one is to model the procedure with visuals. You want to show them exactly what this looks like. You want to show them with glaring examples. If you can use your body in any way to show them, totally do that. Maybe you have each step written out with pictures. This is really significant for visual learners, and it's necessary. It's also great for accommodations. So I think this is helpful. Step number 2 is check for understanding. Allow them to use like a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a sideways thumb to see if they understand. And a sideways is I'm not sure. So allow them to do that too. It gives you a quick glance to see who understands. Step 3, repeat these orally and with body motions. Again, if you can use body motions, like step 1 with one finger, and then you go through the steps, you use words and you use body motions to help them to understand. So for example, if I were going to say step 1, standing at the door, I might use my pointer finger to state step 1, and then I might stand at attention. And then step 2, stand quietly. And again, I might use my next finger, my index finger and my pointer finger, and I might say, this is the step 2, and I'm going to cover my mouth. I'm just going to cover my mouth. So I'm going to wait quietly. So that might be step 2. And then step 3, say hello to your teacher. And so now I'm using 3 fingers and I'm doing a silent wave. Do you see what I'm saying? So you're using your body to go through the steps so that they can understand them. When they're using more body movements, this helps the brain start to understand these steps and remember it. Step 4 is students model the procedures and they practice. You allow them to practice. If you want to allow like a few kids to model it first and everybody to like do a praise cheer or something for those students, or you reflect on what they might improve or whatever, and then you allow all the kids to practice. And then the final step is step 5, and that is to reflect, to really make it their own. You're going to allow students to think about what they just did. You may want to allow them to turn and talk or have a group conversation about this. You may want them to raise their hands and share things out. You might want to allow them to write or draw or discuss what happened. You might want to keep this as a reference. I think this is really important. So I think that those are some great ways to really think through and practice procedures. That will help you rock that back to school time. I do have a freebie for you. It's the quiet signal, which I think is one of the most important procedures. And I do it like a give me 5. And so this has saved me for so many years. And it's like, they stop, they freeze in place, they put their eyes on you, their mouths are closed, their ears are open and listening, and their hand is up. So those are like the 5 little steps. And I have a little poster for you, and you can refer to it. And it just really gets kids. And we practice, give me 5. I'll let them talk, I'll let them turn and talk, or I'll let them have like a numbered heads together, or I'll do something, a Kagan structure, and I'll allow them to talk. And then I'll just quickly try to quiz them. Like, let me see if you can do this. Let me see how fast you can do it. And we keep practicing so that they get really good at it. And that it's very helpful. Some other procedures to think about when you are setting up procedures for the year is transitions into the room, like in the room from one area to another, like if they're coming from their desk to the floor for a shared reading or something like that, or a morning meeting. You want to think about silent reading time. You want to talk about walking in the hall, going through the lunch line, coming back in the room. What happens when the principal walks into the room? I always had a procedure for that. Thank goodness, because then it made me look like a rock star. Going to the bathroom or getting a drink of water. What's the procedure? Turning in work, helping others, dismissal, getting materials, how to function, in the classroom. Those are the kinds of things that you are going to want to think through. Okay. So I hope that this gives you an idea of what you can do to really get your year off right, because it makes such a difference. If you have a procedure or routine that you would like to share, I would love to hear about it. You can leave it in the comments on my website, Trina Debery Teaching and Learning. You can share it with me on Instagram, tag me, Trina Debery TNL. You can message me, let me know a procedure that is so important that you think must be covered. I'd love to hear from you. All right, you are going to have the best school year, or we're going to try to have the best school year that you can. You're just going to rock it. So remember that. And if you start to get frustrated, go back to some of those motivational quotes that you were keeping on your desktop. Go back to Every Child Needs a Champion or one of Sir Ken Robinson's videos. It will really help. Until next time, sweet dreams and sleep tight.